Hello, everybody. Hello to everybody that is joining us right now. Sorry that we're starting a couple minutes late. We're still waiting on a couple participants to see if they're gonna come in or not. But as we wait, please text in the comments where you're joining us from, and then we'll get started in about a minute to 2 minutes. Awesome. So from Ohio. Nice. Lancaster, Pennsylvania. That's also cool. Awesome. So let's go ahead and get started. Um, so today we have Lahaina. How are you, Lahaina?
I'm doing good. Hope everyone else is doing great as well.
Awesome. So I wanted to start off by asking a little bit about yourself, like what you were doing before enrolling in Avocademy and what you're currently working as now. Like, what do you do now?
Yeah, so my name's Lahaina. I'm from Los Angeles, California. Before I transitioned, before I joined Avocademy, I was actually working in healthcare. So I was working specifically in healthcare administration. And when I enrolled in Avocademy, I was also getting my master's degree in healthcare administration at the same time. Because I was like at a weird crossroad. I'm like, what do I want to do with my life, basically? And here I am now, and I work as a UX UI designer with Dish Network, specifically focusing on the UX research side of things. So yeah, it's a little bit about me.
That's amazing. And how are you liking UX research?
It's interesting. It's very different. It's I guess the biggest thing that I've learned about UX research is that whatever you think you know about what you design, it might not actually test the way that you think it'll come out. So you might look at something and think, oh, our users are going to love this. And then you test it, and suddenly it's the complete opposite of what you're thinking. So, understanding how to leverage data with design is something that's really interesting and a really big thing that I'm learning right now. So, yeah.
That's awesome. That's really cool. Okay, so now let's talk about timeline. I'm super curious to know, like, when you started foundations, like how long it took you to complete foundations and how long did it take you to land a job? And of course, this could be an estimate, just in case you don't remember, it's totally fine.
Yeah, so I remember, I want to say around like the end of January is when I started of last year. So 2022 was when I started foundations. And I think it took me a little bit longer just because I was working and getting my master's at the same time. So I want to say that I finished around like the beginning of April or end of March.
Mhm.
So the program I feel like can totally be finished a lot quicker if you don't have like a ton of things on your plate. But for my own pace and stuff like that, yeah, that's about how long it took me to do foundations. And then I did career jumpstart around May, and then I finished that around like the end of July. I think that's about the timeline that I had for that. And then when it came to applying, I think I was actually only applying for about 2 months until I got like the interview with Dish. But I didn't actually get the official offer until about 4 months after I had started applying.
Wow.
But that was more of Dish than anything that was happening. So in between that time, I was still applying for other jobs until I got the official offer. But it was about around the 2 month mark when I had started interviewing with Dish. So yeah.
That is amazing. And how long was the interview process, if you don't mind me asking? with them?
Well, funny story, the interview process was only about like a couple weeks. It went by pretty quickly. It was a 4 round interview and it went by pretty quickly. It was everything after that that kind of delayed the process of like getting my offer, getting executives to sign off that offer and all the contract stuff. That's kind of what took a long time to get the official offer, but the interview itself was maybe about like a couple weeks, like 3 weeks or maybe a month.
Oh, that's awesome. That's really cool. Alrighty, so to give a little explanation to the people that are watching in case they're not familiar with like what Foundation, CJ, or Career Jumpstart is, I'll give you a little explanation. So for foundation studies or educational course, currently is up to 16 weeks long. It's part-time and you dedicate about 10 hours a week. You'll complete one project, add it to your portfolio website. You learn the ins and out of UX research, UX design, UI design, and you receive unlimited mentorship throughout the course. So you can book as many Zoom calls as you want with our mentors. And then when you graduate the foundations course, you'll get certified and receive a badge that you can put on your LinkedIn profile. And then you'll be able to apply to our step 2 program called Career Jumpstart, where once you're accepted, we help you complete a portfolio with real world experience, like real client projects with startups and nonprofits, and you collaborate in teams with other students. And then we navigate you through the job search and help you get a job. So that's pretty much what the two programs kind of entail. If you'll have any questions, feel free to drop them down in the chat. Now we have a question from Nathaniel, and is can we do more than 10 hours a week for the course? Most definitely. So 10 hours a week is the minimum. You could always dedicate a little over 10 hours, like 15, 20, like however many hours you want to dedicate, you can, but the minimum is 10 hours a week. Then we have one from AJ. So if you don't get accepted into CJ after foundations, what should you do? So for the application process to Career Jumpstart or CJ, you'll get a portfolio review from a mentor, and they'll let you know where certain red flags come up and what you need to change to resubmit an application and try again. So my advice would be to take all that feedback and apply it and try to apply again to Career Jumpstart. You have a maximum of 3 tries. And in case you didn't take foundations, I would highly recommend foundations just in case. But yeah, I don't know if Lahania, you want to add anything on that. I don't know if you're familiar with that application process for CJ.
I don't think I have anything to. I just remember having to submit my portfolio and stuff like that, and just waiting for the approval. So I just remember just making sure that my portfolio was just cleaned up. Everything was, all the designs that I wanted to showcase were there. That things were spaced out properly. The content that I wanted was there. Grammar, everything. I just wanted my portfolio to look really pristine before getting accepted into the program.
Yeah, so that's a little feedback, AJ, that you can take in just in case you're worried about the application for CJ. Let me see. Hector said, hey, Lahania, thanks for joining us. What are some of the biggest challenges that you face as a UX UI designer?
Yeah, biggest thing. Two things, specifically on the research side of things. I guess the biggest issue that I sometimes face is you get like a ton of great research, you present to client, and clients sometimes go, nope, we still want to do
Uh,
it this way, even though the results have shown that your target audience or your users like it another way. So that's kind of hard
mhm.
sometimes, is getting that pushback from clients and figuring out how to balance the two together. And then I think the next thing is working alongside developers is something that's I'm starting to really get used to. Like, things that I design that I think are easy to develop, developers will come to me and go, absolutely not. I would I remember I wanted to change a table and they went, I have to update 4,000 lines of code just to change this one table. And I went,
Yeah.
okay, well, that's not going to happen then. So that's probably another challenge is just learning how to work cross functionally with different stakeholders, different team members, and stuff like that, and figuring out just how to balance everything between everybody. So, yeah.
I totally agree, and you're not the first person that I hear that from. I've seen like lots of memes on TikTok too about like the development aspect after the
Mm-hmm.
UX and UI design. And it's so true. Sometimes like you might want to get super creative and like design something that's like super cool, maybe like an animated button, and then the developer comes in and it's like that's gonna take me 5 years to build. So
Yeah,
that's not
exactly.
within
And
our timeline.
it's nice when you have a developer that is open to being really creative, and they do exist, but sometimes that doesn't always happen. So just learning how to find common ground, I think, is really important as a UX designer.
Yeah, I love that. Okay, so this is a question more so for the course, and is Career Jumpstart able to be part-time? 1000%. For Career Jumpstart, you can dedicate from 10 to 15 hours a week. Of course, this depends on the project that you're currently working on, but the majority of the time it won't surpass like 20 hours a week or anything like that. Since these are very small companies, the projects tend to be a little smaller. And we're also aware that the majority of our students work full time while also taking Career Jumpstart and Foundations. Now we have somebody asked if you would be willing to share your portfolio with us. Obviously not now, but I'm guessing like later on.
Yeah, I can totally do that.
Awesome. Okay, so is CJ, and I'm sorry if these are like a lot of like questions relative to the course. If y'all have any questions specific to UX UI designers, this is the best time to ask them since we have Lahaina here that can answer all of those questions for you. Um, is CJ an extra cost? I heard some people did and also not go through CJ, went on to applying for jobs. So CJ is an extra cost. You can pay at graduation. Right now is 4,500 and you can finance those 4,500 at graduation. You can go through CJ if you want to. It's totally optional. I would say that the benefits of Career Jumpstart is like being able to work on a team and get that real world experience, like having mentors to help you through that process because it can be challenging to just throw yourself out there as a designer without that experience. And also the support that you get as you're applying. A lot of the times, like we need that kind of reassurance and help. But I don't know if Lahaina, you want to add anything onto your experience within Career Jumpstart that you want to share about the benefits of it.
Yeah, Career Jumpstart, I think for me personally, I think it was really helpful. I'm someone who needs a little bit of structure, so that's why going through a course, whether it was Foundations or Career Jumpstart, was really helpful for me. The biggest thing that Career Jumpstart did for me, though, was during the interviews, it gave me projects that I worked on with a team slash a stakeholder. So it was easier to present my work to different hiring managers and things like that, and be able to speak to it in a way that shows that I have worked with other people, because that is something that you will be doing if you when you do transition into the career. So I think that was something. And then in terms of community, I think like there were like been so many people from like the area I was from where we would just meet up and just talk about like what the job hunt was like, and like we would cry with each other about like how like the finding jobs sometimes is so stressful. So I think the community that comes from it is also really nice. But like for the whole like job hunting aspect of it, I think having those pieces in my portfolio really helped me speak to the stuff that I did outside of just the Foundations project.
Yeah, no, that's amazing. And I think like building a community aspect, like you mentioned, is also so beneficial with anything that you do. I mean, you never want to feel alone, especially through a career change. At least that's how I see it. I'm like, give me all the support in the world.
Exactly.
But yeah, you don't want to feel alone.
It's also a
Let me,
really good networking opportunity, I feel like. Yeah, I feel like there have been
yes.
moments where someone went like, "Hey, like I didn't get through the first round of interviews. You should try it because you have a similar background to whatever the company is." So if people saw that I had healthcare background, they were like, "Hey, there's like a bunch of healthcare companies hiring for these positions. You should apply." So it was a really good way as well to network with other people.
I 100% agree. And right now, our founder, Maka, she's starting to plan for the team to start going to like different states and location to actually have that like one-on-one interaction with our students, alumni, mentors. And I think it's such an amazing opportunity for networking as well. Because if you're a foundation student, you can talk to somebody that already got a job. And, it's just like, I don't know. I love human interaction, but that's just like me.
We also actually have another Avocademy alumni that just got hired onto the team that I'm working in. Yeah,
Really?
yeah.
That
So
is
it's
so
we're
cool.
really yeah. It was really exciting when I found out. So yeah, no, there's a lot of us, and it's nice to find that support in each other. So
Were you the one who like offered the other student like recommended the other student for the position, or it just happened to be
I
that way?
I think it just happened. I didn't realize that my team was hiring, and then my manager reached out and was like, "Hey, this girl took the same boot camp as you. Do you know her? Can you speak to her work?" And at the time, I did not know this person, but I think because they could see the work that I was able to produce, I think they were also willing to give her that shot into working with us. So yeah, no, it was a funny coincidence.
That is amazing. I love that. Um, awesome. So we are starting to get a couple of questions. I'm excited about this. I'm gonna go into, sorry if I'm like just like reading some of them. Um, okay, I think this one would be fun. So, what were your first few weeks like once you got hired?
Yeah, first few weeks actually were not super crazy. My boss knew that I was new in the career, so the onboarding was actually pretty seamless. It was more like get to know your coworkers, get to know a little bit of the software that we use around here. So the first few weeks were actually not that bad. But once I got kind of thrown into like a project, things started to pick up a little bit. It was a little bit crazier. Time management is obviously really important, but it's still something that's totally doable. I feel like I got really lucky, and that they realized that since I was so new, they really like just eased me into the whole process. So not super stressful, but now that I'm fully thrown into the weeds of the work, it can be a lot, but it's really fun and fulfilling. And I feel like it's just always a constant learning process. And I've almost been here for a full year now. So
Wow, that's amazing. That is incredible for a year. That's good. Like that's
yeah,
super
no,
awesome.
it's really cool too because a lot of the work that we've done is all live on different websites. So it's crazy just going to websites and then you see your designs there and you're just like, oh my gosh, this is insane.
That is so cool. And is it like a big, big company or is it more like medium size?
No, yeah, it's really big. I think in Colorado alone, I should have mentioned that I was relocated to Colorado for this job. I think in Colorado alone, there's three different offices, and two of the offices have about like 20,000 employees. So
Wow.
huge. Yeah.
So your work is getting seen everywhere. That is so
Yeah.
cool.
It's crazy. Yeah, it's like surreal. I didn't think that would ever happen.
No, that's so awesome. And to start off and like get that such a big opportunity to have your designs be seen by so many different people, like I feel like it kind of makes you more secure about your work. Because a lot of the
Hmm.
times people face like this imposter syndrome of like, oh my God, you know, am I good enough and blah blah blah. But then once like you start working and then your designs are getting seen, they start launching, it's more of like that confidence within that starts building.
Hmm.
So it's super cool.
Yeah.
Awesome. So is having knowledge in web design needed to perform UX and UI design? What do you think?
Um, I don't necessarily think so. I feel like there's like this confusion that you need to know this in order to do well in UX. But there's so many different elements of UX, UI that even I wasn't aware of until I started working for such a big corporation that I was realizing like, oh no, I didn't need these skills. And that was something that I thought that I needed as well. But there's, like I said, there's so many different elements to UX that I think even if you just have like a really baseline knowledge, it wouldn't hurt. But I don't think it's like a necessity. But I feel like as you start to really grow in this career, it is nice to start to learn about the different elements that make one thing. So even though I'm not necessarily like a developer or a web slash graphic designer, it is nice to know how they fit within our the structure so that we can work with them seamlessly.
That is so true. Somebody said, how do you do it? If you could kind of like give us a little context on to what? How do you do what? We could help you more in regards to that question. Um, so I'm gonna move on to the next question, which is when applying for jobs, what websites did you use? I'm having a hard time with the traditional websites like LinkedIn, Indeed, and ZipRecruiter.
So where I got my job, it was on LinkedIn. I did apply through there. Um, I don't remember all the sites I used. I think I used like everything under the sun, basically, like Monster, Indeed, ZipRecruiter, just everything that I could find. Um, but where I've had the most success has been through LinkedIn, and probably Indeed was a close second, but I think LinkedIn was honestly where I had the best luck, where recruiters were reaching out to me or other hiring managers were reaching out to me through the sites that I applied into LinkedIn. So that was just my own personal experience on what sites I use the most.
I agree. LinkedIn is a really good tool to apply. But also, Jen, keep in mind that like there's a lot of application submissions that you have to be turning in. So if you're not hearing back from a lot of these applications that you've been turning in, it's maybe because you're not submitting enough. I would recommend you to submit as many as you possibly can in a month, just to get some traction. Then Nathaniel asked if it was 4,500 on top of the 2,997. Yes. So it is on top of it, but keep in mind that you can start paying the 4,500 when you graduate from Career Jumpstart. And by that point, hopefully you already have your full-time job as a UX UI designer, so the payments become a little more doable. Um, what resources do you use to keep up with new UX and UI design trends? I think that's a great question.
Yeah, for me specifically, Norman Nielsen is kind of like where I like to go to just to refresh myself with different, you know, with different rules and trends and stuff like that. I think the site is called UX Medium. They do publish a lot of different articles where we talk about different things like micro interactions, how to design for accessibility. LinkedIn Learning is also a really good place where I go and learn all these things, and I'm lucky enough that my well, mentor slash manager buys us different design books. So right now we're learning like we're reading a book called The Laws of UX. So just it's not necessarily, I mean, those rules are something that are set in stone, but it's always something that you can have to like refresh and stuff. So maybe not even just keeping up with new trends, but still refreshing yourself with some of the old stuff because that stuff is always still important. But those are probably the top places where I go: LinkedIn Learning, Norman Nielsen, and UX Medium.
That's awesome. There's also so many accounts on Instagram that you can take a look at. So
That
there's
too,
for
yes.
LinkedIn.
Yeah, exactly. That's where I like to go as well.
They are so good. Like there's so many different creators that create such good content on UX and UI design, and they keep it so interacting and fun. I love to
Hmm.
watch those videos. But what is your favorite part about being a UX and UI designer?
Oh, geez, where do I begin? I think the best part for me is just seeing the work that I do come to fruition and validating the work that I have through research and then seeing clients basically go, yeah, this is great. Um, so it's a really fulfilling job. I feel like it forces you to think how to design for different audiences. Dish Network has a broad amount of audiences since they do cable, streaming, cell phone services. So you're really forced to think in different ways, and so the job never gets boring. So yeah, that's probably my favorite thing is just always finding a new challenge to do every single day and then tackling that challenge and seeing your work pay off.
That is awesome. So here we have a couple questions about like where to apply to internships. I guess on LinkedIn, there's a lot of internships opportunities. When you take Career Jumpstart, like the real client projects are a form of internships. Um, but yeah, I would say like LinkedIn and those pages where you apply for jobs too. Let me find. Okay, so are there any group critique sessions during the foundations course, or is there a Slack community? There is a Slack community, both in foundations, in Career Jumpstart, and then when you graduate, there's one too. We don't do really like critique sessions, really, not in foundations. Foundations is pretty much like independent work with you and a mentor. Like the mentors will provide feedback, but it's not like they're going to be critiquing you in front of like 30 people. Like it's just like them providing feedback and then you apply it and then you resubmit it and kind of goes like that. I don't know if in Career Jumpstart y'all do like critiques really. Um, Lahaina, I don't know if you.
I don't remember, not from the top of my head, but there have been moments, again, going back to the whole community aspect of it, where a group of us will have like just set up a call together on our own time and go over either our portfolios or we're like, hey, we have an interview tomorrow. Can we practice interviewing with each other? And then, we give feedback on like our interviewing skills and stuff like that and seeing where we can improve. So, not necessarily a community that I can remember, like a Slack channel, but just talking with other people, you just find the time to just do it on your own time. So, yeah.
Yeah, I also think the majority of these like critiques are coming in from mentors. So it's more of like mentor
Mhm.
feedback than it is critique. Um, but yeah, hopefully we got to answer that question for you. So how easy is it to land a job that is remote? I personally would say that the majority of job opportunities are remote, but Lahaina, you went through all the job search, so you tell us.
Yeah, so my job is not remote, unfortunately, but out of a lot of the jobs that, just from what I remember seeing the job listings, other companies that I've interviewed with during the whole hiring process, I want to say about like 95% of them were all remote jobs. So I think it is the majority. I just so happened to get one that wasn't, but it's totally okay. I'm having fun. But yeah, in terms of finding a job that's remote, I think you'll have a much higher shot than that than not.
I agree. I've seen a lot of remote opportunities that our students are landing as well. But just know you have the flexibility to also kind of choose from in person, remote, hybrid. They all bring like they all have their goods and bads kind of thing. When it comes to working fully remote or fully in person or vice versa. Okay, so Nathaniel said when you're doing user research, what's the process in that? Do you ask random people off the street to look at other websites and apps? I'm sorry if I
Yeah,
didn't read it correctly.
no, I mean, we do a little bit of everything. Moderated testing, so doing testing in person, we don't do as much as, so we do use a lot of like online testing platforms where, depending on what we're testing, it really depends. We have users click through different prototypes, and we have them recording their screen and recording their microphone and giving feedback on certain elements of the prototype that we want to understand. Um, in terms of looking at other websites and apps, yeah, it's a really good starting point for us, especially when we're doing like competitive analysis where like what does this company do with their homepage, and then seeing what they do versus what them and like three other companies do, and then seeing how we can kind of do something similar, and then again test that to see how that works with our target audience, because just because one company doesn't necessarily mean it'll work for our company. So we do also do in-person testing, but just not as often.
And how do you do the in person testing, if you don't mind me
um,
asking?
Yeah, so a lot of the testing that we've done has just been a lot of like guerrilla testing. So it hasn't really been like super in depth. It's more survey like. So we just go out
Mm.
in the downtown area and just tell people like, hey, we have a $5 gift card if you want to come in and answer a couple questions for us. And they come in, and yeah, we just ask them the questions, and we get really fast feedback from that. So that's just a really quick like survey way to get just like a ton of people at once to just get feedback really quickly.
That's so cool. And do you enjoy doing those in-person testings or not really?
I personally prefer the unmoderated testing, but if I have to go out and talk to people, it's not the end of the world for me. It's still pretty fun.
I feel like I interview people all the time, so I feel like I would be like interviewing everybody and like take my survey. So fun. Okay, so how many people are on your team at Dish, and do you work with a UI or a visual designer?
Yeah, so my team specifically, like I said, we're a massive company, but my team specifically is a team of seven. We're called the front end development team, so we work with pretty much across all lines of business with Dish. So we work in wireless, like home protection stuff, entertainment, cable, things like that. So that's kind of what we do. We work kind of like the front end of like all across all the businesses. In terms of working with the UI and visual designer, we do have a specific person on our team who specializes just a little bit more in the visual stuff, so that when I come with my research or my wireframes, I go, hey, how can we make this prettier based off of like our brand guidelines, our design, our design system that we have in place. So we do have somebody who does specialize in UI specifically. So
That's awesome. And do you ever get to also implement some UI within your role, or you just like strictly focus on the research aspect and the UX design?
so I do a little bit of both. So I a lot of the times I'll take my own research, design based off of that. But design specifically for me is not my strong suit. So we having that person on my team going, I'm like, hey, like I'm just stuck. Like I don't
Yeah.
know what else I can do to make this prettier. I don't know what else to do to, showcase a little bit more of the company's brand. Can you help me? So that's kind of where they kind of will come in. with all that. So yeah,
But that's good because you're also growing within your UI design side of things too, because you're getting like feedback and like you get to really experience what the visual design will look like. So the more you have that collaboration, the more that you'll be growing in that area as well.
exactly.
Awesome. So, are you taking any additional courses now to elevate your skills, or does being a UX UI? Sorry, I can't read today. It's like the end of the day, so my brain cannot. Um, does being in UX and UI design require you to continue education to be up to speed with modern ideas and skills?
In terms of additional courses, I for me, just because my schedule's so busy, LinkedIn Learning has just been like my biggest thing, of just learning different types of like maybe like new design rules or learning how to design certain things. That's probably where most of mine is, but we do have um, we do have the option to do different certifications so that you can learn a little bit more, become a master in a specific element of UX. Continued education for UX/UI I think is important. I think depending on the company that you work for, sometimes you kind of get stuck in old ways. I do work for a much older company. We design for the masses, so we don't do anything that's like super visually intricate. But for my own personal growth, it is something that I would like to learn. So when I do get the free time, I try to find those courses online or try to find different like certifications and things like that. Like I know um, Avocademy has a ton of master classes that I used to
Hmm.
take a lot when I had a little bit more free time. So when I do get more free time, I try to always continuously learn because even if your current company doesn't have it, you might end up at another company that's all about pushing boundaries and limits. So it would be nice to have that extra knowledge.
I love that you touched on that because somebody literally asked if you took any master classes.
Yeah, so
Which ones did you take?
I did take the advanced Figma one. I think that was one of them. And then the Web 3 one, I think was the one that I took, if I remember correctly. It's
Okay.
been a while, but yeah, those were the two that I remember taking. And I think they're really helpful. And I think it's a good way to just continuously grow your skills because as the industry continues to grow, you do want to try and keep up with it as much as you can. But there is so much to it that I wouldn't pressure don't put so much pressure on yourself to think you have to know everything, but to
Mhm.
the best of your ability is great.
I agree. I think the master classes are great if you really want to specialize on one particular thing because you want one specific job. But if you just want to get your first job within UX and UI design, just focus on having a good portfolio and applying, applying, applying. Once you land a job, if you want to specialize more, the master classes will always be there so you can keep growing and continue that growth within the field. But yeah, it's not like a must. Then we have how many rejections did you get before you were accepted?
Oh man, I was gonna say, don't make me go back to that form. I want to say hundreds. I'm gonna say hundreds. I don't have an exact number. I actually just checked my email this morning and I got a rejection from a company that I applied to like in the summer last year. So they're still coming. But I want to say I got about like hundreds of rejections. And that's just including like ones that I got immediately, interviews that I did, and they told me like, we won't be moving forward with you and stuff like that. So it was a lot.
It builds thick skin when you get a lot of rejections. It happened to me a lot too, back in like 2 years ago when I was like applying to companies. I remember applying to hundreds of companies a month and then just getting like rejection email after rejection email, and I would be crying, telling my mom like, why don't they want me? Like it's a lot on a kid.
Yeah, it's a lot. Yeah.
Yeah, but you learn from it and you know that that's how it is. A lot of the times those are automated, so it doesn't have anything to do with you. Just keep going, keep applying, that eventually you'll get something. So, did Dish provide relocation assistance? And I don't know if you signed an NDA and you can't discuss that info.
No, I did get relocation assistance.
That's good.
Just have to stay for a year. That was just kind of the only stipulation. So yeah, they did provide me relocation assistance. So it was nice. It helped with the move a lot.
That's good. We love to see that. How long are you working on a project for?
Um, that's it's complicated. It depends on the project. So like I have a project that I've been working on since I got hired in. So it's been a full year and it's just like a constant thing. So we're redesigning an entire site for a mobile company. And it's just, it's in phases, it's tough to get everything done and it's hard to have like a certain timeline. I mean, you have a timeline for like little things here and there, like get this little piece done by this date, but in terms of projects, a lot of them that I've worked on have been pretty long term for as yet like yeah for as long as I can think of. Every project that I've worked on, I've still been working on it since I first got hired on, but that's just because the project has been broken up into like different phases.
And do you work on Agile or no?
I think we're trying to move to more of an agile environment. Um,
Mhm.
it's a little bit tough, trying to get some of these processes in place. I think with agile, I think it would help a lot more at
Mhm.
decreasing the timelines that we've had or how long it's taken us to do certain projects. But I think that's something that we're trying to, like my team specifically, is trying to move into a little bit more. So
That's awesome. That's really cool. I was just curious because I know a lot of companies do run in this agile methodology, but others don't. So, yeah. But that's cool. Let me see what other questions I can find from here. Did you ever have imposter syndrome? If so, how did you get out of it?
I feel like I never did. I'm totally kidding, but no, I mean, it's something that's just always constantly, I feel like it's hard to get out of that, but I think the support that I've gotten from my coworkers and like my boss has been really helpful. I mean, I don't need people to praise me, but it is nice when you hear like, you're doing great work and that like the work that you're doing is really good and that like the client like this. So I think it helps alleviate a little bit of that imposter syndrome, but it does come back once in a while, especially when you work with other people who's been in the industry for much longer or people who are much more talented visually and stuff like that, that it kind of creeps up once in a while. But I think the one thing that helps me is that I got the job and so clearly, if you get the job, they saw something in you and they
Yeah.
believe in, the type of work that you'll produce, So if someone's giving you a shot, I think that's more than enough to get out of that imposter syndrome is that someone out there who's never met me before and just the way I've spoken to them, they believe that I can produce awesome work.
That was so well said. I'm like, yes, queen. Um, awesome. So, how often do you have to work overtime if you do ever have to?
Not in the beginning, a little bit. So I'm salaried, so I don't get paid hourly. But
Mhm.
um, in the beginning, I think it was just me trying to get everything like pixel perfect and things like that. So there have been moments where I think I've been working significantly later than I should have. But
Mhm.
as I've grown into this role and seeing how much also like our team what's it called, like prioritizes work life balance, I haven't done that in a very long time. It'll happen once in a while, where I'm like, oh, like I need to launch a test, let me log on to my computer real fast at 7 p.m and launch that. um, but nothing super crazy. Most people that I know in the office that I work at is out by 5:30 p.m. And it's very few people that stay past that. So it's not even just me, it's like everybody else that I've seen in the office. So not much.
That is good. I've heard that usually from like other alumni, I've heard that in startups, like you could see that more often, like working a little bit extra because you're a sole designer. So that might like it might mean that there's more demand within the work. But I'm happy to see that the company doesn't require you to stay overtime. That's good. Awesome. So for my next question is, do you have to have gone through the program to have access to the master classes? No, I can send you the link to the master classes later. I'll drop it in the comments so you can check them out. You don't have to be a prior student or alumni from Avocademy to take it. Anybody can do the master classes. I do recommend you to have experience with UX and UI design before because the master classes are very specialized to one specific area. So it won't break down like what UX and UI design is and all that stuff that you would need before. Um, and then this is the second to last question because I have a question for you at the end. But this one is, how many projects did you have in your portfolio when you got accepted to your job?
So I had four. I had the foundations one, two of the career jumpstart ones, and then I did one just on my own time. So that's how I structured that. The one that I did on my own time was just, hey, this is an app I really like. Let me see how I would redesign it. And I actually used one of those portfolio pieces to speak to the interview with the job that I have today. So um, I'm sure it worked out then. So yeah,
That
so
is
four,
awesome.
yeah,
So a
four total.
total of four. Awesome.
Hmm.
Okay, and this is, let me just do this one. Okay, so this is my last question to kind of start closing everything off. And is if you have any advice to people who want to change careers into UX and UI design, what would it be? And yeah, what would it be?
Yeah, I mean, for me, I think my biggest piece of advice is that if this is something you want to do, you can do it. I think there have been moments where you feel like a career change, especially a little later in life, is almost impossible. But I promise you, like, it's not. Um, like I said, when I did this program, I was doing my master's program and this boot camp at the same time. And I was like, I don't know which one I'm going to end up with, but we'll see. And um, changing my career was something that I didn't think would ever happen. And I thought that was something that was just that could only happen in another life. So if you think you can do it, you can. And I just, stick to it. It'll be tough. Find support in the people that you love and practice, practice, practice interviewing. That's probably my biggest thing. Um, One big thing that I've learned is that my managers have told me you can teach people hard skills, so Figma and things like that, but you can't teach them soft skills. So really learning how to hone in your soft skills, your people skills, taking your past experiences and learning how to leverage that into your interviews and showing that who you are as a person, I think is really, really important outside of obviously your pristine portfolio and your resume and things like that. Just really showing who you are as a person was something that's helped me get pretty far throughout my job hunt in UX. So yeah.
That is amazing. Well, thank you so much, Lahaina. I did see that a couple questions started popping up later on. Sorry, I can't talk today. I don't even know what I'm saying. But um, those questions can be answered via email, so please feel free, if any remaining questions weren't answered, to email info@avocademy.com. And then we are giving out a $200 off coupon code for the foundations program that will be valid until Friday at 11:59 p.m. Eastern Time. So I'll go ahead and put the coupon code down below so y'all can use it. Um, Okay, awesome. So I sent it down below. Thank you all so much for coming and interacting with us. Lahaina, thank you so much for taking the time to chat with me and answer all of the questions. It was lovely having you here.
Of course. Thank you. Thank you, everyone, for coming.
Thank you. Have a good one. Bye, everybody. Bye.